Good morning, Aries. How are you? Today's the day after Christmas. In the UK, Boxing Day. Here in Italy, we call it Santo Stefano. Merry Christmas to everyone who celebrated. If you were feeling a little high drama and intense yesterday, maybe someone said the wrong thing and it really just threw you, do not be surprised. It is not your fault. Venus was conjunct Pluto. And she's retrograde, and just on the 24th, Saturn was squaring Uranus. So that's a lot of intense energy coming at us in a very short period of time. Now, the sun is also in Capricorn. As we know, it moved on the 21st. And it's funny because here, basically all of December was go out, have fun, enjoy yourselves. And then, of course, the numbers hit in a week. And then when sun moved into Capricorn, they were okay, new rules, new rules, new rules, new rules, new rules. So we spent Christmas trying to figure out the new rules. Jupiter moves into Pisces for a full trip this time. He was there briefly this year, but then retrograded back. Mercury will conjunct Venus on the 29th, and then will conjunct Pluto on the 30th. Now, this conjunction of Mercury to Pluto and Venus is significant because Mercury enters its shadow phase. That's right, it is going retrograde right as we start in January, on the 14th, I think. So whatever happens at this, because Venus is retrograde also. So this meeting is very important where he talks to Venus and he talks to Pluto. And it can be, it can be related to some of the stuff that came up at Christmas maybe, because usually Venus conjunct Pluto, it can be a woman bringing up old psychological patterns, family patterns, can be money issues. It's funny, I actually, as soon as Venus went retrograde, I found out that I had a bank card that was sent to me over the summer that I never got because they sent it to my ex-husband's house. And so that was funny to unravel. So you may be finding out stories about women, about money, about finances, about beauty, about whatever. And that Mercury meeting there of Venus and Pluto is going to give you some information that's what you'll be working through for the majority of January in terms of how you think or what you do. I actually based on sort of a kind of high drama situation that came up yesterday during our family dinner, I kind of had an idea of something I could do for Christmas that might be a better use of everyone's time. So I'm actually going to be spending January kind of working on that. Jupiter in Pisces, as I said, on the 28th, this should start a healing process, right? So whatever, especially the changes, the shakeups, the choices that were made as a result of the Saturn-Uranus square, Jupiter is going to come in right now and start to heal those shifts for you. Now, I'm going to do this, I'm away until the 10th, so I'm going to do a couple of readings now, and I'll post them on the days. So this one will cover up until the 31st, and then I'm going to do another video for the first 10 days of January 2022, and then also the Ascendance one, so keep an eye out for that. Anyhow, so let's get the overall energy. Okay, I'm not wasting any time. Impartiality, which to me always speaks to Venus, to Libra, really, about seeing things in a way that's balanced. So I feel like this is talking about, especially with this, with Venus meeting up with Mercury and the Pluto, kind of like a heads up to just be careful about not seeing things in a distorted way, right? Try and keep your balance, keep your emotions balanced, keep the information balanced, so that it doesn't kind of knock you off your emotional well-being. Now let's get the challenge energy. Oh, okay. So we have two cards here. God, this one keeps showing up, the nothingness, right? As well as innocence. So it's interesting here, especially coming up with these two cards, the idea of impartiality and having the two sides, right? On the one, you have this innocence, but it's actually an innocence that comes from wisdom. And and the opportunity to start over, right? So this kind of space where, in the space where nothing exists, everything is possible. And so to kind of balance out this wisdom and innocence here by this little cricket that he's looking at, to look at situations in a way that is wise, but also innocent, open, right? To allow yourself to think of the possibility in that space. So really moving away from, I talked about those psychological patterns, moving away from any sort of prediction, judgment, which is funny because that's what Capricorn season is all about, right? Wants to lay down the law. And so to kind of, this is to me like, don't kind of jump to conclusions. Make sure you hear both sides of the story. Make sure that you're not looking at things with preconceived notions or with a sort of judgmental, cynical view of person who is like, oh, well, I know exactly what's going to happen because these things never happen for me, right? To allow yourself the possibility of something new to take place by staying in a space that's impartial and balanced. So not letting yourself be pulled, to one side or the other. Like if there's an argument in your universe right now with specific people, and that would be that Saturn Uranus coming up. So specific people, maybe the family, maybe the company, whatever, that it's not about picking an either or side. It's about trying to see the opportunity in both. Like if we balance these two things, where can the newness come out? Like if I give you what you need and you what you need, what new thing can we do that creates a possibility, possibility for change in the future? So really being able to, like I said, I think this also comes from the Jupiter moving into Pisces, as I said, which is going to start healing some of the changes that have come up from the Uranus-Saturn square. So there may have been situations of challenges, choices that you've had to make. Squares are usually choice points. Do I go this way or do I go that way? And the answer here to me is really, it's not an either or, it's an and, right? Like finding the winning solution, but that comes from being able to see the situation in a way that's totally new. Being able to balance the wisdom and the naivete or the possibility. All right, so let's get the lesson, please. Okay, very nice. The Holy Spirit says to expect miracles. Remember that only love is real. Miracles will occur naturally. Spirit has your back. This is a very nice card, especially given all these things here. They all have things in their hands, It's like she's carrying something, he's looking at something, the blessing is coming from the hands here. So it's like really sort of underlining that the power that you need it comes from you, or whatever it is that you need to sort of like get through this time, make the changes you need to make, see the thing the way you need to see, is 100% in your hands, whether you may be believing it or not. Now it's going to come from balance, right? Because there's that balanced hands there. So again, I know I've said this before, be careful anytime you find yourself either putting another person into a corner or putting yourself into a corner. No, it's not about win-lose right now. Either, like I said, either or. It's very much about and. How do you win and how do I win? What is the new solution to whatever challenge we're looking at right now? Let me go here. And seeing things with like, there's also this sense of innocence here, right? The loss of the jaded, of being jaded, that what you want is possible for you. It can happen, especially if it looks like nothing's there. Can I get beginning and ending energy for the week of December 26th? Okay. So we have this intention here, which is a 22, so and there's this egg. So there's that birth thing, the idea of something new. And there's the owl, which is obviously a symbol of wisdom. And he's carrying one of those, I forget what they're called, like dandelions. Are they dandelion flowers? The ones that you blow in the wind? So it's like, and here there's a difference of, this is something that is very precarious, and here it's giving birth to something very solid, something new, right? And this owl is sort of in between the two, knowing the difference between what is transient and what is to stay. But actually coming up with the idea. And I also, like, this makes me think, I said the innocence thing, when it goes back to like being a child, when I used to run through the field and would blow all the dandelion flowers away. So like going back to that very sort of innocent state of mind when you thought like everything was still possible for you, and if you believed that you could do anything, what would you do? And so to not cast any of those preconceived notions or preconceived judgments on ideas that you have, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail, right? Okay, and then we have this end energy here. So this is a 22, which is a 4. And then we have the spirit of place, which is also 4, but came up in reverse. So let's see what that one says. Okay, so it says, don't get entangled in details or desires that obscure the truth of your situation. Step back and ask yourself, what is the real nature of my inquiry? Even exquisitely seductive hidden agendas cannot conceal this. Trust your intuition. The spirit of place is whispering in your ear. You hold the power to tell the truth, first to yourself, then to the world. You can always distinguish between an essence that is true and one that is synthetic, right? So that's also like this whole idea of the flower being very transient, like what's real, what's solid, and what's just here to blow away. Be honest with yourself and remain willing to let your situation be revealed for what it really is and not for what you want it to be. An apple can't become an orange, just as a dog can never be a bird. Are you trying to change someone or something to suit your agenda? Only when you see things as they truly are will you find the real treasure. And that's interesting about this impartiality, like being able to see both sides of an argument or both sides of the discussion, both sides of the coin. And so this talks very much about being able to see things clearly, for better or for worse. Is it really as dark as you think it is, or is it like the solstice, right? The longest night of the year is actually the one that gives birth to the return of the light. So it is an end of the dark. The days will get longer and longer until we hit in June. So, is it really the dark or is it the beginning of the light? Now, let me read this too. I know I'm out of order, but that's the way it went today. Okay, very nice. This is, your objectives will be fulfilled at this time. Echoing over here, this expect miracles. Inspired intentions are like magic arrows shot into the sky. The universe is bringing you a gift, showing you that you're hitting your mark. Recognize that you're not the one who has to do all the work. However, others help you co-create reality. You connect to the power of your intention, sending it out into the field, then allow for synchronicity to work its magic. Perhaps the good intentions of others will inspire you to send out beautiful ones of your own. Own the life you want to lead and live deliberately with clarity and detachment, right? And I really think that sentence is kind of like the crux of this reading here. It's like, with everything that you've learned, but without becoming becoming wise as opposed to becoming bitter, what do you want for yourself? And the question is it real, right? Like if you want something, are the excuses that you have given yourself for not going to get it real excuses, or are they like things that you've just accepted as being real until today? I have a friend of mine in Ireland who comes from, he's not, he doesn't have a wealthy family. And so traveling has been very challenging for him. And we were talking once about this trip that I'd gone to in Iceland. And he was like, oh, I wish I could do that. I could never do that. And I was like, is that true? Like, could you not do it? Because, flights aren't that expensive. Yes, it's expensive there. Could you not do it? Or is it just not a priority for you? Is it not where you would invest your money, right? And sometimes the stories that we tell ourselves, like, oh, I could never do that, builds in these foundational beliefs, which, of course, Mercury and Pluto are going to dig up for you at the beginning of January, to reveal to you what they are, right? Like, are they true, or are they stories that we have just accepted? Like that one. He, at the end of the conversation, was like, no, you know what? Actually, if I wanted to go to Iceland, I could. I don't want to. But if you tell yourself that you can't, right, you feel powerless. If you tell yourself that you can, but you don't want to, you feel very empowered. So making sure that the stories that you're telling yourself about what's possible for you are real and true, and not just things that you've accepted, So let's get 3 more cards here, please, for Aries. Three cards for Aries, too many for the week of December 26th. Okay. All right, so 3 of Wands, so ships coming in, which we like. And also like seeing what's coming in, right? Like getting some distance. 6 of Cups, which is that innocence, that nostalgic, that childlike vision of things. This is that detached view, looking at what is yours, at what is possible, at what is coming, with eyes of a child. Oh, and 2 major arcanas here. Hello. Where we have the Judgment and Temperance, right? So Judgment is calling things up, things coming back to life, things coming back from the dead, a second calling. Also seeing, rising up from the dead. So something that you may have assumed was dead and impossible for you may actually come up for a second life now. And what this Temperance card says is not only like be a little bit patient because things work in divine times, not our times, but that whatever, and this is the 3rd echo that we have, there being some sort of divine intervention or divine motor behind what's happening. So if you are clear in what you want and not telling yourself false stories about what is possible for you, that it's entirely within the realm of options, that something you thought was no longer an option, or something that you thought was dead and buried from the past, or something coming towards you, it could be either one, that it's actually like being worked on. Now, again, it may not come back to you in the same shape or form that you expect. I always say that the universe gives you exactly what you want, but not exactly how you pictured it. And so you need to be a little bit detached from the intention that you put out there. It's like, I wish for a black dress is very different than I only want a black dress that's that Chanel one from blah, 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 right? If you're going to be that specific, it's possible that you'll be disappointed. But if you're like, I would really like a black dress, here's that no thingness, that what will come to you, and you're open and available and with that innocence, the children aren't like, oh, this isn't exactly what I wanted. They're like, oh, cool, new toy. So to welcome what it is that comes to you, especially if it's something that you believe was not an option anymore, or that you had archived in the past and just assumed that it wasn't possible for you. So wrapping up here, because I don't want to get this too long, and then I'll get one last piece of advice here. Stay detached, like have very clear intentions, but clear intentions that are built from a place of wisdom and innocence, right? Like, what if anything was possible for you? And even if it looks like nothing's there, to reconsider that nothing's there as a blank slate, right? And so a place where all can happen. Making sure you're telling yourself the right stories, or that what you believe is facts and not misinformation. Is it really not possible for you, or just has it not been a priority? Have you been working on something else, or do you just not want to do that? And then believing that the things that your innocent wisdom want from within that you may have given up on are still possible for you. And without getting into a situation of it's either like this or I don't want it, right? If you have like a mix of opportunities and you can blend them to turn them into something that you want, right? Like if you can blend them to turn them into something that you want, how would you do that? Okay. Last piece of advice. I'm going to go with, since Jupiter's moving into Pisces, I'm going to use my Neptune deck here. And if you're like me, I was born in 74, or, 12 years after that. If you've got Jupiter in Pisces, this is a very auspicious time. Jupiter loves being in Pisces, and he likes to give, I remember the last time it happened, I would have one of those days, there was no big change, landfall, hey, you have, there's that rich uncle that you never knew you had, and he just left you $800 million. But little things that I wanted along the way would just kind of pop up, which would bring me this sort of childish enthusiasm. Oh, I didn't think I would get to go see that concert, and free tickets just landed on my lap. So the advice here for this week is deep replenishment, retreat, rest, be held. That's quite interesting. So to get back into this sort of balanced space, make sure your own energy is nice and cared for, and is well taken care of. Otherwise, all of this thinking that needs to happen is going to be clouded also by your exhaustion. Hope this was helpful for you. Wishing you all a very happy new year as well. Celebrate safely. And I will see you in the new year. Take care.